Hello and welcome to the Post-Up Show. I'm Cyrus Rogers. I'm here with the real Kaunda, Chama. Kaunda, I know that we're ready for another installment of the best show on the internet.
This.
How are you doing?
I'm good, Cyrus. Just celebrating Kobe's life. 1 year since we lost the legend.
Yeah.
And I think as we record this, we remember one of the guys that made us love the game as much as we do, right?
Yeah, that's indeed it. Without legends like Kobe, a lot of people wouldn't have the love for basketball that a lot of us do. So, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. And of course, also rest in peace, Gigi, his daughter, who passed away in that tragic accident. This is the thing about how life goes, is that you just never know what's going to happen. And, just a year on, we've got to pay tribute. So we do that to open the show. Now, this particular episode, we're going to be talking about players that have impressed us in the NBA this season. Now, it's not necessarily like the marquee guys, your sort of KDs and your LeBrons. I think we talk about those guys a lot. These are sort of the guys who are bubbling under a little bit. And I know when looking at each other's lists, Kay, you are always like, no, guy, this is the guy I think is standing out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I think maybe let's start with one that we both agreed on. And this was somebody that I think has been doing quite a lot and had started the season quite well, and that is none other than Darren Fox from the Sacramento Kings. He's been pretty impressive, averaging 20.9 points a game and then 5.9 assists a game. He's one of those players who's just taken his game to the next level. What about his play has impressed you so much, Kaunda?
Cyrus, since Darren Fox came into the league, he's been one of those young, athletic, explosive players, and I think I'm happy to see that he's maintained. And he came into a Sacramento Kings squad, Cyrus. I know you like saying they've seen better days, and those better days were probably in the 70s. I know they haven't had the best of times, but Cyrus, they've been trying to rebuild. They've been trying to get some nice pieces. Your likes of Darren Fox for me are good pieces, and I think at the moment, bar none, he should be the de facto leader, even as young as he is, at the squad. And I think he's doing a great job. And he started off the season very well. You said 20.9 points a game, about almost 6 assists a game. That's contributing almost 30 points in a game. If you add those numbers together, a minimum of 30 points that he's helping create and make during a game. And Cyrus, for me, that's very impressive, especially that he did have a bit of a niggle, a bit of injuries recently, but he's come back even stronger. And it's great to see, a young player like him performing at that level. And Cyrus, in a market like Sacramento, which has struggled for so many years, I mean, that's the team that even the likes of, DeMarcus Cousins just got tired of and had to leave somehow, some way. Yeah. I mean, they even had Isaiah Thomas, the younger Isaiah Thomas play there. So they've had some good talent, but they've just never managed to put a good squad together in recent years. But I think if they build a good squad around the likes of a Darren Fox, which I think they're trying to do at the moment, he could be that guy that turns that Sacramento ship, if you will, and maybe they start making some impressive, postseason appearances, maybe even.
It's possible. I do think, though, that with the Kings, management has been a bit of an issue, and they've recruited poorly. They've had some really great opportunities to bring some big name players in, and just didn't take those chances. And in fact, I know that everybody talks about the Luka Doncic going to the Mavs instead of the Hawks thing, but we also forget that Marvin Bagley was picked ahead of Doncic in that draft as well. So, there's so much around the Kings that everybody keeps questioning, yet they've now got a young star in Halliburton. And when you look at the development of Darren Fox, he's become such a good player for them. And I've just loved watching him, and he's been very impressive this season. He's taken his game to the next level. Now, another young player that I like, you like, and has been impressing so far. Though when I say I had my reservations about this guy for a long time. And you actually said, look, you know what, you got to keep watching this boy. And he's been doing really well. And that's Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls. Now, he's been a dunk machine in the past. He's started to work on his game. And, in his sort of mid-20s now, he's the kind of player that you can almost think maybe the Bulls can start building around him too. He just it's been a struggle. And he's averaging 27 points a game, 5.3 assists a game, and even 5.2 rebounds a game. What about Zach LaVine made you think, no, this guy, we've got to start talking about him more?
Cyrus, if there's one thing I like is dynamic players. You know, like unless you're a phenom that just comes into the league, like you're Allen Iverson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry. You know, it's a different journey for you. And some people like LaVine and you're like, and the likes come in as dunkers. I liken him to the likes of Blake Griffin, right? They come in, they're explosive dunkers. They can catch alley-oops from anywhere. If they make their own play, they can slam that ball down so hard. But that only makes you a good player for so long until people start reading your plays and they can counter, and then you start looking very average. Now, Cyrus, what Zach LaVine has done is he's expanded his game. He's now added a very impressive shot. He's got a good mid-range. And if you saw towards the end of last season, he was working on that three-pointer. And that three-point shot, Cyrus, is landing. It's seeing the bottom of the bucket, and I like it. And to me, that's why I'm impressed. I mean, I had my issues with him when he won those back-to-back DAC championships because, me and Aaron Gordon, I was a big supporter. I wasn't happy with some of the judging. But when it comes to the regular season and the postseason, Zach LaVine, Cyrus, he's been impressive. I think he's the kind of player that can help, bring the Chicago Bulls, maybe not so much to their glory days, because their glory days involved one Michael Jordan. They involved one Michael Jordan. But, like if you could take them back to the Derrick Rose meets, Jimmy Butler days, if they can.
D Rose was an MVP. But if you can get them back to the postseason,
that's what I mean. He's the kind of player that I think he can also help get them back to making postseason appearances, and the dynamic nature in which he seems to be approaching the game, and the fact that he can add, elements to his play, for me is impressive. And already you've seen, in the new season, 27 points, Cyrus. I mean, that is a lot of, buckets that you're putting up. And to me, I mean, rebounding for a guy that jumps as much as Zach LaVine is not surprising. But if he's assisting well as well, to me, I mean, that's why I would put him right there as one of the players that's impressed me this season so far.
Yeah, and rightly so. I think his three-point shot's been great, and he's actually had a string of really good performances. I know they were talking about a stat at one point where he was averaging 30 points a game for like a 5-game stretch, and the only player to have done that in a Bulls uniform was one MJ, who you mentioned. So, there's a big shoes to fill in Chicago, and that's always been the biggest problem. But I don't think anybody's expecting the next Michael Jordan. They're just hoping that the rest of the guys can come to the party and start doing something. Now, the one player who was very divisive when we came to who we thought was good was a Golden State Warriors guy who I was like, anybody from the Warriors, and it wasn't Steph. I was like, okay. And then you said, nope, it's this guy, Kelly Oubre Jr. And I'm like, Kelly Oubre Jr., who's averaging 11.6 points a game and 5.5 rebounds a game. I don't see it, Kaunda. I don't see it. But you're like, no, I'm going to make my case. So here you go, Kaunda. Do it for the people.
For the record, I'd just like to go on record as saying Cyrus does not support the following statement. Now, let me tell you, Cyrus. Kelly Oubre Jr. is a role player. He is the kind of guy you bring into your team to do specific things. He's a utility player. So Kelly Oubre Jr., he's that guy who disturbs the other team with his presence. He's quite a menace. He's got long, lanky arms. They get all up in your face. They want to steal those balls out of your hands. And that's exactly what he's been doing. And in the meantime, he's also been scoring second chance buckets. He's the kind of guy you can depend on. He's lanky, he's long, Cyrus, he jumps well, he gets rebounds, and he can put them in on the offensive side. And that's what a Kelly Oubre Jr. has always done for me. And I'm glad he's doing just that at the Golden State Warriors, because that's what they needed him for. Cyrus, they didn't need him to score. They put Steph Curry. They don't need him to score. When Klay Thompson comes back, When Klay Thompson comes back, they don't need him to score that much. What he's scoring right now is what he needs to do. What they need at the Golden State Warriors, they've got enough firepower, Cyrus. If you look at Andrew Wiggins, is going to come into his own. I think the place like Golden State Warriors is a place where he can comfortably grow. He can learn from the likes of Steph and Draymond Green. They've got their big man. They've got the Draymond Green is kind of like a scoring Kelly Oubre Jr., who's much bigger, if you will, because he's also irritating to the opponent. He gets all up in your face and he grabs rebounds. As far as irritations go, Draymond's right up there with the best of them, right?
He's the MVP. And this was my point about Kelly Oubre Jr., was that perhaps it was a bit unfair to judge him really early on, where he was taking a lot more threes because of the way the Warriors played, and his three-point shooting was horrendous. I mean, the stats themselves just basically show you this is a guy who is not setting the world alight. And that's what had surprised me. But to agree with you a little bit, I do think, though, that his presence on the defensive end has helped a little bit. And also they've started to utilize him a lot better. So, in their more recent impressive performances, the Warriors, they've used him in the right way and managed to get Kelly to stop trying to take threes that he was not really great at, but get him to drive into the lane, get those dunks because this guy can fly, and then also try to harass the guys on defense. And he's done that. So I'll give that one to you. He wouldn't have been on my list. And here's one that maybe you might not have agreed with, but was definitely on my list. And that's Julius Randle from the New York Knicks. I never would have thought that at some point I'd be talking about Julius Randle as being a player who impressed me at the beginning of a season, and the Knicks being so high up in the standings. But here we are. He's averaging 22.7 points a game, 11.3 rebounds a game. We love that double-double, but also 6.1 assists a game. Now, some people are calling him the NYC LeBron. Some people being, I just made that up. But he's been actually very impressive this season, and his numbers are looking good. The Knicks are looking a lot better, and I think perhaps it has to do with the change of coach, change of formation, and rather style of play, but also what's happening in the front office. The front office is actually looking a lot more competent, and you're seeing that filtering through to what's happening on the court. Julius Randle is being used in the most effective way, and that's pretty good. Has he stood out for you too, or is he one of those like a Kelly Oubre Jr.?
Cyrus, you make a good case, and I have to agree with you. This is a former Laker. This is a former Laker, Cyrus. He came there. He was there when LeBron arrived, and things just didn't go well. The bright lights and the things just happened, and he wound up in New Orleans with the Pelicans after the AD trade, right?
Yeah.
Then later on, he winds up in New York. New York, the lights are as bright as Los Angeles, but the game isn't as good. And I think a place like New York, which has got a whole bunch of youngsters that are still trying to establish themselves, he's there as a kind of sort of vet. And I've known, not known him personally, but I've known his style of play from his Laker days. Julius Randle is a hard worker. Now he's giving you 22, 11, and 6. He's giving you 22, 11, and 6, which just shows you how hard he works. In a market like New York, which for the first time this year, I'm thinking maybe the New York Knicks might make a playoffs appearance, Cyrus. They might creep into the 8th spot. They might creep into the 8th spot, but they might get there.
How crazy the world is. The Nets might be going to the conference finals. Anything can happen in this universe. But the Knicks have been good. They have been good.
They have been good. They've had a great start. And I think Julius Randle, Cyrus, if you look at the stats, he's been a great part of that. He's been an integral part of that. And I think he will grow very well at the New York Knicks if he continues at the current trajectory, because he's the big brother now. You got your Kevin Knox and them, the youngsters that are there, but he's the big brother. He's the one that's leading the way. And I think he's got great locker room presence as well. And putting up numbers like this, Cyrus, 22, 11, and 6, I mean, you follow a guy who's saying, look, I'm putting up these numbers. You can do better than me, or you can do as good as I can. Let's get out there and win ourselves a nice bunch of games and wind up in the postseason, because New York hasn't been looking sexy for many, many years, Cyrus.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
People go more to see Madison Square Garden than to actually see the New York Knicks.
Is very true.
I'll say that on record, Cyrus. They go there. I was at Madison Square Garden at the Mecca. Did you watch
Yeah.
the Knicks? Yeah, kind of.
They got whooped by somebody.
Yeah, they got whooped by some team. But now things are changing, Cyrus, and I think Julius Randle, I back you on that one. I can't argue he's looking nice.
Yeah, and look, he's 26 years old. He's been in the league. This is his 7th season. He's a number 7 pick from the 2014 draft. So this is somebody who was thought very highly of, and it's good to see him starting to put numbers up. Now, we're actually ending this show with a player that we completely agreed on as being one of the guys who's just been so impressive, and that's none other than Luka Doncic, who I mentioned earlier. Now, Doncic really... Some have been talking about him as being potentially in the MVP conversation before things really got into their swing, but he's averaging 27.3 points a game, 9.8 rebounds a game, and 9.9 assists a game. That's an almost triple-double. This guy is only 21, Kaunda. It is ludicrous. This is his 3rd year in the league, and we're already looking at him and saying, look, Luka Doncic, you are just doing everything that needs to be done in a Dallas Mavericks team that is struggling to really get consistent. Now, I know that I love watching Doncic because he does so much right. There's so much that he does right on the offensive end. His defensive game isn't as good, but it's just one of those things. So what about Doncic's game has impressed you?
Cyrus, I think Doncic, for me, first of all, he might fall into that category where I'd put the likes of LaMelo Ball, where you say, okay, look, before he became a rookie, he had some experience in another league, another professional league. Like he played in Europe, he was an MVP, he won a championship. So he was playing with men when he was like literally a boy, Cyrus. So now he comes into the NBA. I've actually heard him in an interview say it's actually easier for him to score in the NBA. I'm not sure it's so easy for him to defend in the NBA, but it's easier for him to score in the NBA than he did in the EuroLeague.
Yeah.
But Cyrus, he's got an all-round game. I like Luka Doncic. He's very impressive. He looks so at peace when he plays the game. Have you noticed, Cyrus? Even the look on his face. It's not as if he's stressing or somebody's pushing him too hard. You can see when they're losing, he kind of stresses, but when he gets into his groove, it's almost like it's just muscle memory, and he just showed up to make sure that his body has a brain with it. You know, that's how I see Luka Doncic. When he's got that stroke right, he's fantastic, Cyrus. And I'll give him a triple double, Cyrus. If you're talking 9 point, the higher 9 point something.
Yeah.
He's literally basically averaging a triple double. That's he's playing around with Russell Westbrook numbers here. And Cyrus, the fact that a young African named Giannis Antetokounmpo has gotten back-to-back MVPs, I don't think we should be really surprised that a guy that young is already in the MVP conversation when he's playing that well, because he is shooting lights out, Cyrus, and he could do with a bit of work on the defensive side. I think with the likes of Dirk Nowitzki still affiliated to the Mavs, I think something will happen. Like you said, he's only 21. I mean, he hasn't even reached his prime yet, Cyrus. So that part he can work on. But his offensive game, that is just something to write home about. I mean, there are times when I watch Luka Doncic and I say, this is just a kid. How is he doing what he's doing? But some people just have it naturally.
That's it, and Doncic is that guy. Kaunda, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, man. And thank everybody for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe. We love to get more people subscribed to the channel. And visit the website, postupzone.com. We'll have loads of information on there as well. But thank you so much for watching. We'll be back and enjoy what's happening in the NBA.